out there listening. We are rolling across the pond. I'm Jesse, and I'm talking with Lee, and we're going to talk about Goro.
Probably most of you have listened to by now. Goro's like a 7-foot giant turtle. Like, he sticks out in a crowd. He's not hiding from anyone. Like, he can't really hide. It's kind of interesting. Like, he's a complicated guy. He wants to hang out with people, but because of like his training and who he's been hanging out with and brought up with in his life, they're like kind of like a military aspect of don't do this, don't do that. And it's kind of like a new aspect for him, just seeing all these people doing crazy things that he would never thought he would, be thrust into these situations. But I feel like, so I can pull back the curtain, and one of the two things I wanted to base like Goro off was I wanted to base him off the Hound from Game of Thrones, and I wanted to base him off Kiryu, who's the main like protagonist, well, one of the main protagonists in the Yakuza video game franchise. Now, Kiryu is an anti-hero. He's part of a Yakuza that don't really do good things, but he does do good things. But he's constantly fighting within himself and within like the clans of the Yakuza for trying to do the right thing and making sure like not crazy people are put in charge and loads of other fun stuff. All I'd say is go play the video games. They're phenomenal. Like, they're probably the best video game series ever. And if you've read Game of Thrones or watched Game of Thrones, you know what the Hound's all about. Like, the guy is the guy's a machine. He's got some fantastic one-liners. He can hold his own in a fight. He is the man. And then towards, here we go, this is unfortunate for TV series. Obviously, as the series progressed beyond the books, we saw a completely different side to him, which is kind of interesting because when you read him, you kind of like, I do get like the Jason Voorhees side of when I read the Hound more than anything, just kind of like, yeah, shut up, I'll kill you. Like, I don't care. And I feel like that's what I wanted with Goro a little bit, like with his background in the Royal Guard, like all he sees is not the good in people, but he's starting to come around. And I feel like as the adventures go on with a few other members of the party wanting to do stuff for their clans and stuff, I feel like he's going to have like a whole new perspective on like life in itself and also just like the whole kingdom itself as well. He has got a soul, but then also his mum had a good saying pretty much constantly in his life, saying that you shouldn't always act like this and act like that. People are different, so keep an open mind, even though most of the time he is grunting a lot and shaking his head and just going, why? But he's there. He's the gentle giant, as I'd like to say, of the group. And his background's kind of interesting because it's like we wanted to have, when Jess and me were discussing about characters, someone from the royal kingdom, so basically kind of like the whole royalty side. So Goro's dad is actually part of like the king's guard, and like basically Goro was groomed to basically be the next head of the king's guard. But one day he saw the king basically doing shady stuff, and then his dad, and then his mum also found out. So my mum, so let's say Goro's mum's gone into exile because she ran away. Like, she did not want anything to do with like dad and basically told me I have to go. So we had a very educational conversation and a goodbye. So I know where my mum's location is, but no one else does. So I know if she's in trouble, how she can get in touch with me as well is kind of cool. But yeah, when I confronted my dad about it, my dad basically challenged me to a duel. And if I won, I could basically stick around, but he'll disown me as a son. Or if I lost, he basically did both. So he gave me a really horrible decision. So it wasn't a win-win situation. So yeah, I had to fight my own dad, and my dad pretty much kicked my ass. Like, I was not going to beat up my dad. So he basically just beat the living snot out of me and then kicked me out of the kingdom, and basically said if he ever saw me in any big cities or anything like that, or word got out that I was around, people would probably come and try and not have fun with me, should we say. So I've basically had like this whole thing of my dad just not being a good dude. And if I ever met my dad again, I probably would have to either engage him or try and just reason with him. But he is so far gone from the dad I knew growing up that I'm probably going to have to straight up kick him in the face. and probably make sure, and it sounds horrible to say this, make sure he stays down. So that's not a pleasant thing to say about your family. So Goro pretty much has a very interesting like family. His mum loves him a lot, and he keeps in touch with his mum, which is kind of cool. So the mum's story is quite interesting because obviously she married a guy that's completely changed as well, and well, I'm 7 foot, and my dad is like 8 foot something. He's huger than me, so and you could see that I'm quite an intimidating geezer, but I was never that way. And same with my dad, but my dad's gone full. Like the best way of describing it without scaring the listeners is my dad's kind of like Jason Voorhees. He's not the man he used to be, and he's just soulless. He's just basically follows the king's orders, and he just doesn't kind of ask any questions like, is it a good thing to do this? Is it good? Oh no, you disobeyed this, smash. And so my mum wasn't 100% behind that. So yeah, she got out there as quickly as possible, and pretty much the same day that she left, I pretty much had to make sure she got out of the palace, should we say, by pretty much sacrificing myself to pretty much getting beaten up by my dad. So it was pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So you can see why Goro doesn't really engage and talk to people too much, because that's kind of a burden that's weighing on him all the time, whether he's out and about in the kingdom. So. But his dad has completely disowned him, and there's like, whenever he pretty much goes to major like capital cities and stuff like that in the kingdom, he tries to keep a low profile just because of the threat his dad made him. So yeah, it is kind of bad. I like my dad's background as much as mine. So my dad was kind of like, he didn't have it easy. So like when he first came to the kingdom, he basically tried out for the King's Guard. And then under multiple different kings, because turtles are quite old, guys. My dad had to go through like a whole kind of like a gladiator fight pit to get where he was. And so, yeah, he had a bit of a bloody, horrible backstory. But then obviously he kind of had a gentle soul as well, because that's how he had my mum, and then he had me. So, you know, he's just been corrupt along the way, and he's just not the same guy. So I think, yeah, describing him as Jason Voorhees, just so people can see, like, when you see Jason in those movies, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, he's like an imposing figure. He might not want to kill everything, but it's like, you know, when he walks into a room, like, you know he's there. I just feel like I'm just going to try and smash as many things as possible, guys. That's my whole point of Goro's intention, is to just destroy as much as possible for your guys' pleasure out there in the audio world. Like, I just want to smash things and just make things cry. And that sounds pretty dark.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, man.
Man, thank you guys for listening again. We are rolling across the pond, and hope you enjoyed this.
Bye.
Bye.